Okay, so today we are discussing brown dwarf and white dwarf. In a way, you can say that what is a star? So star is a self-gravitating object where the central temperature is so high that fusion starts. This is a star. Now, of course, the star has a certain mass m. Now let us think of it like this. Suppose mass increases in this way. Okay. Now, what I am saying is that this is a star, so here fusion has taken place. Now, suppose the mass of the star is such that the fusion, with what fusion? Which fusion? Because the star has hydrogen, helium. Now for fusion the stars need to come closer to each other. That means they have to overcome Coulomb barrier. Now Coulomb barrier is proportional to Q1 Q2 by R square. Forget R square. So Q1 into Q2, right? For hydrogen fusion 1 into 1. Helium fusion 2 into 2 4. So it keeps on increasing. Carbon even 36. Okay. So let's talk about hydrogen fusion. So suppose this is the star where fusion has taken place, say for 5 minutes. Since fusion has taken place for 5 minutes, we will call it a star for that 5 minutes period only, that time. And after that, what will we call it? Because after that, the mass is not sufficient that the temperature is high enough to continue the fusion. So, we will call it white dwarf after that. Okay. Now, look, suppose the mass is little bit lesser than this white dwarf. Little bit lesser. Then, in that particular self-gravitating star, self-gravitating gas, fusion never takes place. What will we call it? Brown dwarf. Again, it's a dwarf, very big, but still it's a dwarf. So here we have brown dwarf, and here we have white dwarf, and in between we have a star. Okay. Now, next question. Let's talk about this brown dwarf first. Now, how does a star forms when a gas keeps on collapsing? Right. What happens because of collapsing? Pressure increases. Now, in a normal gas, suppose ideal gas, pressure PV is equal to nRT. That is, pressure is proportional, not inversely, proportional to temperature. So, increase in pressure means increase in temperature, right? And this is the way how stars are formed, because if temperature, because of increased pressure, if temperature increases, then there will be a time when fusion will happen, when two hydrogen come close together. Because of increased temperature, their thermal energy will be very high, right? They can come close to each other and fusion can happen. Now there is a catch. I have often said that star, self-gravitating gas, pressure keeps on increasing, temperature keeps on increasing. But there is a catch. The catch is like this. Think of what is inside this self-gravitating gas. Atoms, right? So basically nucleons and electrons. Now, when they are coming close to each other, they are actually quantum particles, not classical particles. We treat them as classical when they are very far away from each other. When they are, that means far away means when their de Broglie wavelength is much larger than their separation. That's the mathematical statement. Right? Now suppose they come close to each other as they are collapsing, and their separations become equal to their de Broglie wavelength. Now we have got three species inside: electron, proton, neutron. What's the de Broglie wavelength? Lambda is equal to h by p m into v. So mass, the lower the mass, the higher the de Broglie wavelength. So if I just consider proton and electron, whose de Broglie wavelength will be more? Electron, 2000 times more, because its mass is 2000 times less than that of proton. So when the atoms are coming close to each other, it is the electron whose de Broglie wavelength will first be large enough and then it can become comparable to their distance. Okay. Now it can happen that the atoms become so close to each other that electrons, their de Broglie wavelength become equal to that of their separation. Then what will happen? The gravity will try to collapse the electrons into the same state, and that is not possible because they are fermions. Pauli's exclusion principle, we know, they follow, fermions follow, and because of this statement, the electrons will just say, no, we cannot go to the same state. This statement that we cannot, this creates a pressure, a new force known as degeneracy force or degeneracy pressure. Okay, so this cannot creates a pressure. Okay, remember this is very different from the previous case. So what will happen is that if the cloud is collapsing, so here the cloud is collapsing, and before the temperature rises, it happens that the electrons become degenerate. Then what will happen? Now, a very peculiar property of degenerate gas is that pressure is independent of temperature, whereas for this case, pressure depends on temperature, which I have just mentioned. Now, since pressure is independent of temperature, so even if it collapses, the temperature will not rise, and if the temperature will not rise, no fusion will happen, and they will form brown dwarf. Okay, and this happens for a little bit lower mass. Okay, this is the scenario. Now let's talk about white dwarf. What are the various types of white dwarf? Suppose in a star where fusion has happened for 5 minutes, this I was saying. So there in the core, because of this fusion, very small helium will be there, and rest hydrogen. Okay, actually there is hydrogen, actually there is helium previously present, but I am right now talking about the helium which is created as a result of fusion. Okay. Now this we will call helium white dwarf, HEWD. Okay. Now it so happens, now this is one white dwarf, it so happens that in the star the central temperature is high enough, then what will happen? Hydrogen will fuse to helium, and after that the temperature is again favorable so that helium can also fuse to carbon, but not beyond that. So what we will see is that inside there will be only carbon left, outside only helium, and after that there will be hydrogen plus helium as well. Okay, and this is what you will call this. You will name this on this. You will call this carbon white dwarf. Sometimes people also call them helium carbon white dwarf. Okay. Now, if this process continues, what will it end? What is the maximum possibility? The maximum possibility is the star which has got very large mass, and here we have got only 3 layered onion. Here we have 2 layered onion. Okay. 2 layered onion structure. Here we have 3 layered onion structure. And in the maximum scenario, remember, in the maximum scenario we will have iron. Okay? Why iron? Because remember, binding energy curve, this maximum is iron. So iron, then silicon, magnesium, and so on and so forth. So it will be like this: hydrogen, helium, okay, and carbon, and so on and so forth. So it will be a very interesting and a very large number of layers will be there. Remember, these are all white dwarfs. So there are many types of white dwarfs, right? But only one type of brown dwarf, where there is no fusion. And here, because of this fusion, look at the richness of the structure. This richness of the structure is mainly due to fusion. Okay.